Hello everyone, Quintessence42, your lone archiver here, and today I'm going to be talking about the now dead game Dauntless and how Night Rain, Elden Ring, is kind of filling that void for me and how it's filling that void. But first, I have to give you the context on what Dauntless was. Dauntless, in many people's minds, was a watered down Monster Hunter game. In my eyes, it was a Monster Hunter game with a lot of the fat trimmed. You didn't have to worry about prepping by eating before hunts. You didn't have to worry about keeping your weapon sharp. There was a lot less that you had to concern yourself with other than making a build, as I'm doing right now as I set up to hunt a monster, and then also just killing the damn monster. I believe in this specific stream that I have unlisted on my channel, what I'm going for right now is there is a list of things called mastery rewards back in the old day that were just sort of like achievement systems, and one of them is just killing a monster over and over again, and it's a full set of its own outfit. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm mostly just going to be using clips from this stream just to talk over them for explaining Dauntless. Dauntless's original progression was quite simple. It had a generally loose story of what order monsters are introduced to you in. You unlock the islands that they persist on, and then you go hunt them in the same way that you're seeing here, through 2 layers of YouTube compression. So I'm sorry if any of the snow falling on this map is making it a little bit crunch, but that's just what we're going to have to work with because I can't get any new content for this game anymore. The progression would then just be you kill monster, you get its parts, and then you make its equipment. I believe originally back in the day, after you made that piece of equipment, you would need more parts to slowly upgrade it over time, maxing out at plus 10 or plus 6. Once you had completed the whole story and experienced pretty much every single monster, you would unlock the Maelstrom. The Maelstrom was a rotating set of 2 islands that each had a unique cast of monsters on them that would just let you grind gear for essentially your high rank for other Monster Hunter clones. This left it more interesting because as a games as a service style ordeal, it was nice to have a system where every single time you're going on a hunt, you're set up with something slightly different. In terms of weapon variety, there wasn't as much because there was only at peak times 7 different weapon types. But what it offered instead of having more unique weapon types is every single weapon would have not only the perks acquired to it, but also a unique effect that would change how you play. From this, Elden Ring Night Rain kind of reminds me of it in some ways, because there isn't a lot of the fluff. You only have like 4 consumable slots. One of them isn't taken up by your flask, but you still have a limited number of healing flasks as your main source of healing. And then you go through a map, explore a couple of things, and eventually the day ends and you have to fight your first boss. Bosses are mostly all unique to their own right, of having to fight something with a variety level of attacks and abilities, and just having to figure out how it works through trial and error. Or at least that's how it is for me as somebody who hasn't really played any other FromSoft game other than Dark Souls 2. But I picked up Night Rain because I had a friend who asked me to play it with them, and it's designed around 3-player co-op, which was a weird number to me at first, but I guess makes sense. Dauntless, on the other hand, fights are designed in a way that you're supposed to be 4 players. A big complaint I know people coming from Monster had about Dauntless is a lot of the attacks that monsters do don't necessarily aim for the head. Monsters in Monster Hunter don't always, but tend to mostly, the character they're looking at is the character they're going to attack. Monsters in Dauntless will use their tail as a weapon very frequently. They'll do side steps and twirls to hit people all around them. So it really feels more in tune to the co-op experience because it's like you always have to be paying attention, not just is the monster paying attention to me. The current thing I'm fighting in the background summons these ads and is known as Dreadfrost Boreus, the dire variant of it. And by killing those ads, you gain stacks to break its ice armor. You could also just wail on it to try and break its ice armor, but it greatly reduces your damage to roughly 10% of your normal attack power when hitting it. And once it's broken, you can go back to actually breaking parts on it and dealing stagger damage to knock it over. This is honestly a good example of one of the fights that made Dauntless very unique. Eventually, after a certain point, Dauntless retired the parts and craft system to instead focus more for an EXP system, which lets you have a dynamic experience by saying, oh, I can use any weapon and I don't have to spend all this time killing the same monster over and over again for its parts. You just needed to do that to unlock the weapon itself. And it still had the same story progression of it introduces you the monsters and these new environments where multiple monsters persist at the same time called hunting grounds. Within the hunting grounds, 3 monsters would exist at a time, and you could really just pick and choose whatever one you wanted to actually go for at that specific moment. When you killed a monster, instead of, just gaining its parts, you would gain experience, tied instead to whatever one of the 7 weapon types you were using. You would then use that experience to just naturally level up from a level system from 1 to 20, which would increase your armor's resistive power and your weapon's attack power. Once you got back to the actual hub of the world, you could then, if you were at level 20, reforge, giving you a little amplitude crystal that I think was called an Aether Spark canister. And with that, you could just upgrade a weapon to be its maximum attack power. As weapons were introduced and armor sets were introduced throughout that main story campaign, they would essentially be tiers 1 through 5. 20 attack power, then 40, 60, 80, and then 100. But regardless of what original tier it was, once you spent one of those Aether Spark canisters on it, it would then immediately be upgraded to tier 6 and be 120 attack power. Armor was slightly different, being 4 unique pieces as a helmet, chest, arms, and legs. These instead were used to system 5 points rather than 20, and then you would upgrade it from 5 to 10, 15, all the way up to 30. There was also a mode at the time known as Escalation. Escalation was in some ways the end game of Dauntless, but in other ways was not. Escalation had a specific meter that you would build up as you perform them that would let you unlock perks and abilities to improve further escalation runs of that specific element for escalations. If you could kill the monsters efficiently enough, you were rewarded with having a fifth fight at the end of a 4-fight escalation run with a Keystone Behemoth. Keystone Behemoths would allow you to get legendary weapons, which wouldn't have any unique effects or perks of their own, but you could bond any weapon in that element of that weapon type to it, giving it those perks to that weapon. This was really interesting, because instead of just being stuck with a certain weapon and then upgrading it, what you could do is you would get to escalations, and then you would focus on unlocking that, and then you wouldn't have to really worry about power surging any of the other weapons until later, because you got most of the benefit, the actual attack power increase, off of just power surging that legendary weapon. Another thing about that time is people were starting to have some problems with Dauntless on the whole. Dauntless for the longest time was themed around its battle pass system known as the Hunt Pass. During COVID, the Hunt Passes were reworked that way, as long as you finished the pass, you would immediately get enough premium currency to just buy the next pass for its premium track. During the Reforge era of Dauntless, this was dropped in favor of just Hunt Passes. Once you bought them, wouldn't really give you any of their platinum back, but you didn't have any time gate on them. You could keep them around for forever. There was also a rotating vault of prior Hunt Passes you could purchase from, just by earning merits from weekly objectives. Phoenix Labs, the developers of Dauntless, were going on from Dauntless at this point to work on other projects. They kept Dauntless alive and working for the most part, but it was more on a life support system with promises of future updates eventually. During this time, they were acquired by a company known as Fort, or Forte, I guess based on the way it's spelt. This was a crypto company from every source I can find that I actually trust. To say this was a red flag would be the understatement of the century. Fort would go on to ruin every PL IP that they were working on. Fort would go on to pretty much cancel any project that they were working on before it even released. The only other game that Phoenix Labs made, I believe, was just Fae Farm, which was kind of in the Stardew Valley-esque style of game, and was pretty warmly receptive as far as I could tell. I was kind of past the whole Stardew Valley farming sim by the time it dropped, but it was still interesting to me to say the least, because it had some own unique things that made it stand out just a little bit. The rest of those things, it was really sad to see. One of the most famous examples was Project Dragon. Not exactly Minecraft. It honestly seemed closer to like Terraria, in the sense of you would build up a base, you would gather materials, and then you would fight some kind of boss. It looked to be pretty close to developmentally finished, so it didn't really make sense. Like, this was ready for a beta release. Like, you could sell this at this point from the way it looked. There might have been more bugs and issues in the background that needed to be solved, but like, there's so many releases these days that drop in beta that are just such a mess that I think it wouldn't have been that bad. Eventually, after having all of these projects canceled, the development team seemingly went to just work on Dauntless again, having no other real choice. A lot of the old guard of their team kind of just didn't seem to be around anymore. I don't know the exact specifics because, of course, I wasn't privy to that information, and Dauntless was niche enough as a topic that it wasn't exactly perfectly well covered at the time. What ended up happening was another rework progression update. Going back to parts and crafts in terms of armor, well, weapons maintained a leveling system. Instead of having a leveling system per weapon, instead it was a leveling system per weapon per weapon. Instead of having the 7 different weapon types be something that you upgrade and level just by going to kill monsters, what you would instead do is you would take a weapon, you would kill monsters with it, and often you would get little aether sparks and stuff that would let you spend EXP to upgrade a weapon more. This made it feel more like a gacha game. You didn't actually gain most of your weapons by going out and killing shit. You got most of your experience by doing weekly or daily objectives and then spending the things you got from those to upgrade weapons. This was just a mind-bogglingly nonsensical decision. Another part about this is the fact that Dauntless is themed around elemental types, with every single monster having the type that it is. For example, the thing I'm fighting here is called Riftsalker, and it's Umbral, so I'm using a Radiant Axe, the opposing element, to do more damage to it. Most of the weapons no longer had even half the elemental types at their disposal. You couldn't get the benefit of fighting a monster with its opposing weapon type, because most of them only had, like, 2 out of the 6 elemental types in their roster, because each weapon type only had 2 total weapons. If they released at least 35 weapons at the start of this new update, it could have survived, but odds were not good. Minor correction. 7 weapon types with 6 different elements is 6 times 7, which is 42, not 35. I don't know how I messed up that math. Essentially, all progression was dropped from Reforge, because you now had to go back to the system of getting parts to upgrade from the monsters. But for many players who hadn't religiously played the game, they didn't have a whole bunch of weapon parts just sitting around to, well, monster parts just sitting around to upgrade their armor. Weapons were even more shafted. You did weekly objectives to get weapon merits. Combat merits was a different thing from earlier progression style, but we don't have the time for all that. These weapon tokens would let you purchase a weapon from the store, and you could directly pay to win buy more of them. This was the bleed out period. I don't know if it was Fort's development decision. I don't know if it was Dauntless's upper management at Phoenix Labs trying to just, like, get enough money to get the ship steered in the right direction again. But either way, going to that level of money grabbing was not the call. Dauntless, what really needed back in that point was probably more of just generalized content that felt good to buy. Dauntless had gone so long without a fresh hunt pass at that point that was kind of part of the problem. I think if there's anything to take away, I don't know what would have made Fort's team happy to keep the game running, but I think it probably would have been just give Dauntless a little trickle of updates in terms of just giving more hunt passes for players to buy, while also working on the other games to keep money afloat. But I'm not here to critique the problems with Dauntless. I'm here to talk to you about how Elden Ring Night Rain reminds me of it. They want... Yeah. Both things in front of us are fine. Maybe it's the fact that we soar in with a little bit of control onto the actual battlefield. Maybe it's the fact that combat is mostly focused around a stamina system where most of your attacks will consume stamina, and you'll have to logically think about, oh, I don't want to use too much stamina at once before you actually get caught out unable to dodge. Or maybe it's just the fact that I'm just too brain-rotted. Maybe it's the fact that I'm way too brain-rotted. In this run, we're going towards an enemy called Agar. I don't necessarily know which way it's supposed to be pronounced because I don't know which lexicon they're taking it from. It could be more Scandinavian in nature and Norse, or it could be based on more Latin influences of gold. Either way, it's a giant jellyfish that we're going to kill at the end of the run, and we've got to figure out a way to do it. We've only faced this thing once before, but its hitbox is so annoying that I figured I'm not going to fight with my normal loadout of running Guardian. I'm going to play the Mage Recluse instead, because that way I just can lock onto the target and stand back a little bit more and not have to worry about its annoying hitbox from melee characters. Similarly, we've also been joined by a random, who also seems to get the memo by playing the Archer class, and Jubei, who is Cardboard Box God you're used to seeing on this channel a lot. Okay. Good, we all know to avoid the giant wagon. Yeah. This and then that makes perfect sense to me. This, and I believe all the other games, Night Lords, which is the actual final boss you're going for at the end of a run, become unlocked after you defeat Boreus, or Gladius as it's actually called in the game, a giant three-headed dog that splits into 3 different dogs. I say Boreus because that's the more Latin pronunciation of Cerberus, as you would know from Greek mythos. Now, I don't really talk much in the live commentary for this, especially because I'm not good at doing that anyway yet, and also because I'm trying to focus on the things that the enemies are doing, even if I am the mage, because they can A, rush up to me like that, and B, because I want to play more melee characters, I've got to find a way around it. I take this Glimmer staff here because I didn't really know what I'm doing with any of these staffs. This is my first time playing the mage character, so this is my first time seeing most of these actual spells. The original run that we had some disconnect problems, so we didn't actually get that far, and I'm mostly used to just seeing any Elden Ring content from the perspective of our T game. So, you know how well these things are going to go if you know any of his content. Oh, right, those guys get back up under normal circumstances. Okay, well, I could fight them indefinitely. What are you two engaging? Oh, I didn't realize that was gonna hit me, okay. Another thing about the boss that we're facing is it's going to summon a lot of little weird tendrils coming up out of the ground that if you kill will send some magic bolts towards the boss to help deal damage to it for physical characters. Where is... whatever, I'll find another. A halberd I found at the start gives me HP every single time an enemy dies, which is pretty useful for a fight with a lot of adds, so I plan on keeping it for the rest of the run. He's going for something, I don't know what. You're going to see me following around my teammates a little bit like a lost puppy, partly because I'm only 10 hours in the game and I don't really know what I'm doing, and to be honest, I don't think many people know what they're doing unless they've been really following the teaser lead up to this game, or they know enough FromSoft that they recognize a lot of the fights, because apparently it's kind of a grand tour of sorts. Gran Turismo of all the different bosses and enemies they've made before. just rehashed in a way that works for Elden Ring's exact combat mechanics, which is cool to see, to be honest. I tend to love that sort of content of like, oh, well, you can recognize this. Some people will say it's lazy of like, oh, they're just rehashing things that we've seen before. But for me, I find it nostalgic and cool, even if I'm not the one who exactly has nostalgic for all of these fights, because, again, I've only played about 20 hours of Dark Souls 2, and even then, that was with the seamless co-op mod in a 4-stack, so it was mostly just, I see a fight 3 times, and then it's actually on me to be the host and not die to this specific fight. By the way, I picked up something that I think I'm going to keep to the end of the run because of all the ads that guy has. 20 HP every single time a foe is defeated. There's a blue crossbow on the other side over here. Oh, hi. Where is our boys? This chariot set? Probably a good time to explain another thing that reminds me of Dauntless. Characters are themed around 2 different abilities. Well, technically 3 if you include their passive, but we won't get into that at the moment. They have an ability that they'll usually have at the ready for keyboard users, their E, which is, for the Recluse, the ability to sap away those little reticles you'll see around the auto-target system. What that lets you do is gain a little bit of your FP back, your focus points. So that way you don't have to worry about casting spells all the time, because you have a consistent set to recover it without having to drink pots for it. The second thing that they have is their big ultimate ability, which feels in a similar way that those feel like lantern taps. They feel like Omni Cells or lantern holds from Dauntless. Big abilities that have long cooldowns, and you can attack enemies to make them come back faster, and they're focused around just usually utility focus or just big damage. Let's closer to the center. I think we can do it after, but if he wants to focus it first, I wouldn't mind. Nearly every single one honestly reminds me in some ways of one from Dauntless. The one that this one reminds me of is there used to be the ability to just mark a part and then just start hitting it. And the Recluse's ultimate just lets you mark a target, and then every single time it gets hit, I believe everybody, not even just the Recluse, gets to get FP back. Their E ability, when you also steal those different elemental abilities, allows you to, once you get 3, make a unique spell based on the combo, which reminds me of Magicka, which is nice. Since the boss that we're going to be facing at the end of the run is weak to electric damage, you're going to notice I'm going to steal a lot of electric tokens, with the 2 most common ones I pick up being electric and, since I'm using this fire staff, fire. Getting 3 electric seems to give me some kind of passive benefit that increases movement speed and the amount of distance I cover with a single dodge. Meanwhile, having 2 electric and 1 fire does that little teleport that does a big burst of damage at the end.
Okay. Resistance to all ailments will be important for the sleep.
In case you aren't familiar with the actual mechanics of Night Rain, that little church that we've marked as a little golden spiral is how you get an extra charge of your flask. Here I managed to stumble across one of the many merchants throughout the map and decide to experiment a little with its shop offering.
Wait. Hold on. That's just for those items. That's annoying. Oh well.
I had hoped it would let us carry an extra weapon per each slot, just because the more weapons you have, the more passives you can get, because even if you aren't using them, they'll offer some benefits. But upon looking more into it, I realized, that's not as good. But it is still pretty good. I just haven't gotten used enough to using the consumables that having a 5th slot of them is that entertaining. I do think it comes into use during this run, but I'm not exactly certain. I turn around here a little confused after I get to the top of what that pin is, but I can't really make out what the symbol is supposed to be. It looks like a folded rag piece or something. So I just decide I'm gonna kill the guards in front of the church to get my next flash charge and then get out of here, because the ring is closing. The night is beginning to rain. It was also at about this point that I noticed that camera angle matters for where the actual spell lands, and this thing has severe drop-off to limit its range, so you can't just cheese things out with it. But I'm not going to capitalize on that during this run. I've got too many other things to worry about.
We're gonna have to take the jump out and take a little bit of damage. What-do-do?
Before somebody does the classic Minecraft YouTuber thing of like, you missed clay, I understand that's a scarab and I understand what it does, but I figured I can't kill the scarab, get my level ups before the ring closes, and also get that last potion all at the same time, so I just didn't go for it. I even think one of the 2 people behind me went for it, which is funny because they even have less time to get in the circle, but I've died to the ring more than once, which is more often than it should be. So I'm trying to not make that mistake again.
Yeah, I know the ring. Oh, I got a ring. Okay.
Those Discord notifications are Jubei telling me about the ring that they got from the scarab.
Well, I'm waiting at the objective. Just get the, whatever you can. Thank you. That will be useful.
We like a bit of increased casting speed in this economy. Especially when this game punishes you for if you don't have enough focus points to cast something, with and your character just sort of looks at your staff back and forth while walking, unable to cancel out of the animation. It does a similar thing if you try to steal from something that currently doesn't have an effect for the E, but it's a lot less taxing. Doesn't punish you as hard for it. This initial fight is pretty simple. I decided to try and use my other staff a little bit because it seems a bit better for AoE. Though I'm kind of just at the point where I'm trying to find a comfort zone of one staff I'm using a lot in this run. And then we fight this, which Jubei was really happy to see.
buff again.
These two are hitting this thing with lightning effects so often, dancing around this fight, that I'm having a hard time pulling any other effects off the damn thing, because I'd really prefer to have something other than just the movement speed buff I keep getting. So I decided to, despite the fact that this guy seems fiery, and my better judgment is don't use a fire weapon against a fire monster, I decided to just try and grab a few ticks of fire off of it, because the lasting pool makes it easier for me to actually press my E and then get something that isn't lightning. Whereas with this staff, usually by the time I'm done doing the casting animation, somebody's already swapped it back to being electrically inclined.
I'm not getting anything other than the lightning buff for getting 3 lightnings off the enemy. None of these are fucking good. I guess Deluge of Scarlet Rain while walking. But my things were HP upon guarding and HP upon inflicting Scarlet Rot. So I had to take something that inflicts Star Rain while walking. Yeah. Mostly those left to clean up, which I think are great enemies. So I guess the rest of this run is just going to be a boss rush for as many runes as we can get our hands on. Alright, there you go. Oop. A little bit of frame lag. Oh, lots of frame lag. Tree out, Kaya. What? Oh, okay. I did not know that that had such a large AoE. Oh, okay.
I don't know if that thing is just faster as it gets lower on HP, like a lot of bosses in games do, or if I just, after seeing that attack like 3 times, I just messed up the timing that time, because again, I'm still new to this. But yeah, I end up picking up this meteorite staff thinking, oh, well, I'm gonna probably keep using the fire weapon I'm currently using, but it leads at the cost of, I'm already at the max number of things that I equip, so I've got to drop something. I end up, I think, dropping that sword because I shouldn't be taking damage anyway. And then Jubei implores me to also pick up this thing, which greatly reminds me of Dauntless's God Hand weapon once I get into using it. The God Hand is a war pike. You attack with it, you generate a meter, and then you get to load that meter as a piece of ammunition. Most of the war pikes, that ends up just being like a rocket launcher. But for the God Hand, it's a big fuck you laser beam. And that's what this thing is. A big fuck you laser beam.
What does this even do? Okay. Hold to continuously release the sword. Okay, so it's a hold ability. So I want to do this with it.
I aim it into the ground here. I'm going to rely mostly on locking onto targets to use it for the rest of the run. But I'm going to be skipping around a little bit here because we're mostly just doing a lot of just running from fight to fight without really engaging things anymore, because fighting the tiny enemies for a chump change amount of runes isn't going to do much. More leading into me trying to follow these two around like a headless chicken.
Yeah, I think I want to upgrade this blue into a purple. Because although it isn't the damage type the boss is weak to, this thing is just so good in terms of proccing fire effect. And getting 3 lightnings on a target is just not good. Do we want to fight the dragon out here? Or... nah. I guess you're... oh, are you going for the stone key thing? Circle? Oh, no, you're going for there. Oh, right, I didn't notice the ring was closing. Thank you. Lava moment. Go as nearly as far as I thought it did.
And this is the point where the final build really starts to come together. The ultimate applied on the target is going to allow me to cast that bolt for a lot longer than you're really supposed to be able to from constantly hitting it to get more FP back. Boom! It's not that long of a duration, but it still heavily reminds me of Ye Olde God Hand. Unfortunately, killing it in the lava causes some issues. So what I end up doing is I'm just like, alright, I'm gonna get the gold, and I'm just going to click on the first thing I can click on, and then I'll worry about actually getting the thing I want back for healing in a second, once I figure out which one of these things I want to drop for that. I don't end up really even using that gold sword is the funny thing, because I don't really have many opportunities to get in close with the final boss, and I don't want to learn a new weapon this late into a run and jeopardize it like that. But having to run back in the lava, which slows you down to actually get that thing back, ends up making me pretty damn late to the next fight.
Oh, okay, that's a lot closer to the ring than I thought it was. Oh, I didn't have enough.
Not paying enough attention to my focus bar definitely cost me a bit there. Fortunately, this isn't really a fight that will matter in the long run in terms of pot usage.
I love how I can take mana effects off of you guys. I find that incredibly comical.
When your teammates taking one singular tick of fire damage benefits you. That's the funny part about it.
I don't think we have time for it. Depends on what it is. Oh no, it's the demi-human queen. We totally have time for it.
Heal.
Increased poise, I guess. I don't know. I don't mind increased fire damage when I'm using a fire weapon. Well, I didn't know he was going to do that. I should have really known, to be honest. Oh. This goes again. Okay. I just got locked in that, I think. Oh, okay. That, I don't like this one because it just locks me into it. The delay on being able to cancel out of it is just too long for my liking. There we go. Oh, okay. That does that. I do think it's really funny that we've seen this thing now twice. Once as a general great enemy roaming the map, and then the second time as the end of day boss. I think it would be better if something's been defeated out in the world, you can't then get it as the night approaches. But maybe that'd be a technical limitation of some kind, and it doesn't really make checks for that. It honestly does remind me of Dauntless again, because in escalation runs, you could have the same monster show up twice, once as its regular variant, and then a second as its dired or tempered variant. We're going to be skipping the end preparation just to save a little bit of time, because this is already a 50-minute video, and just be gonna get into the boss after I fiddle around with the menus a little bit. Key bindings. Walk. Where's walk? Third sprint. Oh, okay, C. Wow, even when we're not running around the map, I'm still late to the fight because I'm too busy trying to figure out how do I walk to proc the 2 different effects I have that matter to walk for. All right, and this is the funny little jellyfish. It tries to put you to sleep. It drops some spirit bombs on you. Kind of just swims through the battlefield annoyingly. Hard for melee characters to get up close and hit, but for 2 ranged characters and Jubei with the pot cannon, we're pretty set here. It's not going to catch us out that much, and we just got to avoid a few splashes of water. It'll also summon a large variety of adds that if you kill, again, will shoot magic bolts at it, just to help out for people stuck in a melee weapon. Oh, damn it. Turned to lightning again. Oh. Perfect. 3 magics for once. Oh, I didn't notice that thing was coming. I might have been very stupid. It's fine. I should not have started that. It's fine. It's okay. Oh god.
Alright, and with this fight and this video starting to taper off, let me thank you for watching. Like if you enjoyed the video, dislike it if you dislike it. Please give me any combat. Yeah, give me any combat. Yeah, fight me in the comment section like a normal YouTube commenter. But yeah, give me any feedback I can use to make better videos like this. And thank you for listening to me yap about my favorite game that is no longer with us. I'm probably going to make a few more Night Rain videos at the very least. Then maybe go back to my main game, which is Helldivers. But honestly, what's more likely going to happen is because this has made me so nostalgic for something I can't have anymore, I'm probably just going to do both. So I have been Quintessence42, your lone archiver, and I bid you adieu. And I bid this fiend good night.